Hello, Tama here. I had a few people ask me if I was going to make a video talking about my toy collection, and I wasn't planning on doing that, but because it's quarantine, and I'm bored as hell and everybody's bored. I'm actually not that bored, I'm very busy, but everybody needs something to keep them kind of sane right now. I've gotten back into collecting a little bit. I don't usually collect toys like as toys. Mostly it's display pieces, like pieces of furniture essentially, except when it comes to shoujo stuff. A couple of Cardcaptor Sakura figures, all of my most nostalgic and out of printiest manga in the back except for the Sailor Moon stuff. Cloud Cards, Cloud Wand, stuff I got in Japan, this clock that like my friends had as a kid, and I always wanted one, so I bought one recently and it doesn't even work, but it's very cute. And then there's these. So it's a little weird to collect fashion dolls of any kind. There's kind of a stigma around collecting fashion dolls, and it's mostly because most people get into collecting fashion dolls or playing with fashion dolls when they're like 2 years old. So there's an infantile piece to it, and then there's also like these things look kind of uncanny because they're a little bit too 3D. There's a little bit too much that's a little too human to be comfortable about them. They're too tall, like they're taller than most action figures, so I get it. I get why people don't like collecting them, don't like looking at them. I grew up playing with fashion dolls. They were very popular when I was young, and I got my first fashion dolls when I was 2 years old, so it was like not a conscious thing. I decided that I liked them. It was like people got little girls Barbie dolls when I was a kid, so that was how I was socialized to enjoy them. I played with them with my friends up until like I was 12 years old, 11 or 12, I don't even really remember. But it was a social thing, and it was also something I did in my time alone as a kid, and I spent a lot of time alone as a kid. A lot of the things that I still keep from my childhood were important to me for survival reasons at some point. They were the things that got me through life when it was very hard for me. And I think it is somewhat kind of impressive to hang on to something that a lot of people didn't, because it makes them valuable, because there's not a lot of them in the world. So this is not going to be a super exciting video if you don't like fashion dolls, or if you are not interested in learning more about specifically these dolls. I'll try and make it interesting. That's what's going on here. So I have the Irwin Sailor Moon dolls mostly. Those are the ones. This Sailor Moon was my first one. I got her first, and these were the dolls that were sold when I was into Sailor Moon. They're like the second batch of North American Sailor Moon dolls. So these dolls were made by a Canadian toy company called Irwin Toys. I don't know if they've made literally anything else. This is all I know them for. And this was like their second attempt at making Sailor Moon dolls. Their first one, well, let's just say these dolls are called Pretty Face for a reason. Because the first Irwin Toys Sailor Moon dolls, they basically had like Barbie-shaped heads with really low little lips, and they weren't cute. So these ones have rounder heads. They look kind of more anime. I like them a lot because I think that their faces are quite pretty. I mean, they're a little strange looking, and they got better over time. Like you'll see, this is a later Irwin Toys doll. She's got much better face paint. I think she was also more expensive. So that was my main focus in collecting, was getting the rest of the Irwin dolls. And I had her, Sailor Moon first, and then I had Sailor Venus second. This is also in quite rough shape, and we'll get to that. But I just had the two of them for a while, and no other dolls. It was so embarrassing. I asked all of my friends from middle school. This was back when these dolls were still really cheap, but you had to get them online because they were no longer being sold in stores. I asked all my friends from middle school to each get me one Sailor Scout, and they did, bless them. They were much too kind to me. So that's how I ended up with most of these dolls. That's Sailor Jupiter back there. I actually got these two at Toys R Us at some point, and I don't even remember when, but it was like way before the middle school stuff. This was also around the time that I had discovered eBay, which is why I asked all my friends to go on eBay and get me all my dolls. I had gotten this Japanese Sailor Moon S, Sailor Uranus, and then my friends had gotten me a Neptune that was like the old version of the Irwin Toys before they did the Pretty Face line. So I also eventually replaced her with a matching Japanese Sailor Moon as Sailor Neptune, because it's important to me that Sailor Neptune and Sailor Uranus matched. And then, of course, no one got me Saturn because that was even impossible back then. Sailor Saturn was only sold in Canada and only for a very limited time, and she's very rare. So I had to wait until I was an adult to save up the money to have a disposable income to buy her. At the time, I got her for 150 bucks. She came mostly in this condition. She's never been removed from the box. There's like usually a little plastic shroud over her face, but hers is loose in there. So I had a few like rules because I got these back mostly when I was younger, still as a kid. I have rules about what I wanted to get. I didn't want to have duplicates of any character. So I didn't want to get the Princess Serenity. I didn't want to get the Super Sailor Moon. I didn't want to get Dark Lady because I already had the Chibi Moon. I did at one point try and get the Italian talking Chibiusa because she is for some reason 11.5 inches in that set, so she would have been the same height as the rest of the dolls. So that was why I wanted to get a version of her in her Sailor Chibi Moon outfit that would have been the same height as the rest of the dolls. So we ordered that on eBay a bajillion years ago from Italy, and it got lost in the mail and it never came, and we only paid $20 for it at the time. Those dolls are worth hundreds of dollars now, so that is the big tragedy of my life. The single big tragedy of my life. So that's the main reason I ended up with the dolls that I did. I would like them all to be Irwin Pretty Face, but at this point, I'm just happy that Uranus and Neptune, if they're going to be different sets, match each other. That's fine with me. The exception to the no duplicates was the 2 Sailor Moons, because you couldn't get Chibiusa, or I didn't know you could get Chibiusa by herself. I thought you could only get her if you bought them in the 2-pack at Toys R Us. So that's why I ended up with 2 Sailor Moons. And this is her hilarious schoolgirl outfit that looks kind of more like a flight attendant. She needs some work. So I kept the boxes for most of the dolls that I got at the time in middle school. I think Sailor Mars, I guess, is the only exception to that. She did come in a box, and I think I just didn't have room for that single box. Like, I had to pick one box to get rid of, and I guess I picked Sailor Mars for some reason. I think that there's something funny about this Sailor Mars compared to the other dolls. Like, I think she's Australian or something. I'm not super sure what's going on with her. 10 years ago, I would have been a senior in high school. I decided I wanted to clean up the dolls that I grew up with, the ones I had played kind of rough with. I had taken them in the pool, I had changed their clothes, I had lost pieces of their outfits. So, most of the ones that I got in middle school are still in great shape, but the ones that I got earlier than that, especially the ones that were like my original Toys R Us, I got them at the store dolls, needed some work. So 10 years ago I started that project with Sailor Moon. I had to replace her boots, I had to get new gloves for her, I had to replace her choker, and I had to really fix up her hair. So her hair, I think these dolls have nylon hair. If any of you guys know anything about doll collecting and you know what the hair type is on these dolls, please let me know. Her hair, I actually ended up having to trim some of it off because nothing was working on defrizzing it. This is an enormous improvement over what it used to look like. It's still not great. I washed in it and I restyled it at the time because her elastics had rotted. These elastics for doll hair do rot over time, and they don't like decompose, but they do disintegrate. So I had to redo her hair. And then I guess I chose to display them in the sun for a while, which is unfortunate. I think I just wanted to look at them. If you collect something, you want to display it so you can see them and get some kind of benefit from having them and not shut them in a closet forever. But unfortunately, because I displayed them in the sun, some of them have some sun damage. And it's not like I put them in direct sunlight. They were in a glass cabinet, but they were facing a window, so some sunlight, even in Portland, does come through sometimes. So unfortunately, this got discolored. I'm gonna need to replace that. Sailor Mars somehow got I think her face is a different color than her body, and I don't really know how that happened. The biggest tragedy is the Saturn in box. The stand is obviously discolored. The box has faded a little bit in the sunlight. Not too bad, but like the front is really obviously a different color than the sides. So it's a little sad that her stand is so discolored. She is such a rare doll. So I plan to actually go through and clean up all of the dolls, even the ones that are in the boxes in the back. The boxes in the back have been opened with the exception of Sailor Mercury, who doesn't need any work anyway, so it's fine. So I'll go through, I might like refasten them to their boxes if I can, figure out how to do that. But my next big project is Sailor Venus. So this doll is in the worst shape of all of my dolls. So the way that I was able to replace the missing parts on Sailor Moon, I used to frequent this store, this online store called Avani Shop, and they are the only place I've found that consistently sell loose parts for Sailor Moon dolls specifically. I guess because they're like so niche, almost no one else collects them, and no one I think is insane enough to try and like restore them if they're in bad shape, because it's just not worth the time to most people. So I think that's where I got these boots, and then the gloves and the choker came from a Sailor Mars that I got on eBay that was in bad shape. So this choker is actually not correct for her. It's supposed to have a little felt crescent moon, kind of like the felt heart shape on this doll. I don't know if you can see that. And also her outfit could use some cleaning up. So I guess I'll redo her a little bit too. She could use a little washing. Sailor Venus is next. She needs a new choker, new gloves, a new hair ribbon. Her shoes, I find really funny that they designed her this way, but you can't get her shoes off her feet, her enormous anime feet, without breaking the buckles on them. They're just plastic, so the little straps on the ankles, you can't get them off without just ripping them. So Sailor Moon doll's legs attach just like that. So there's just a little peg in there, and there's like a little mold inside the leg that keeps them together. Well, this mold, the vinyl I think is deteriorated, so it pops back on, but it doesn't stay very well. It's really loose. And knee joint has ripped. Their legs are supposed to bend, but these don't anymore. I really did a number on this doll. So she needs a donor doll. There's pretty much no way to fix what's wrong with her without unfortunately dismantling another doll. So I did get this doll, which is a later Canadian, I think, to be basically a donor. I purchased it. She's complete in box, but the box is in terrible shape, and it's not sealed. This was the cheapest doll I could find. The loose dolls even were more expensive than this at the time. So I ordered this one. I was like, okay, I'll take apart this poor perfect doll. Not perfect, I mean, she doesn't look great. She could use some work herself. She doesn't even look like my other doll. Her face paint's so much darker. My conscience wouldn't let me do it. I was like, I can't do that. I can't take apart a doll that's still in box. When there's gotta be a Sailor Venus out there that could be a more suitable donor for the amount of stuff this one needs. Like, I gotta take her legs off. I gotta replace her whole legs. So I have ordered another Sailor Venus. It's loose, in worse shape, but it has all the parts I'm missing, including, I think, some legs that are probably in better condition. So that's where we're gonna start with the next video.